27 January 1944. What would you do if the ocean around you suddenly began to scream, not with sound, but with a vibration so cold and sharp, it felt like the sea itself wanted to swallow you alive? On that winter night in 1944, as the Pacific heaved under a moon smothered by clouds, American sonar operators aboard a destroyer Escort caught the first eerie whisper of something Japan believed could never be detected. Its new generation of silent submarines, engineered to glide through black water like phantoms, engines dampened, hulls smoothed, every bolt designed to erase noise, yet unaware that American sonar technology had evolved almost overnight, turning the ocean into an acoustic battlefield where silence no longer guaranteed survival, and every heartbeat beneath the waves counted as a signature of death. That same night, deep below, a lone Japanese medic attached to a submarine crew found himself tending to wounded sailors after a sudden internal explosion caused by depth pressure fractures. He described later, though only scraps of his diary survived, the way blood drifted upward in slow red ribbons, turning the narrow steel corridor into something like a floating grave, lit only by flickering emergency lamps as metal groaned around them like some ancient creature waiting to crush them whole. Moments later, the American destroyer's sonar ping sharpened, locked and screamed through the headphones, and the medic, clutching a trembling sailor whose leg had been torn open by shrapnel, felt the submarine tilt sharply as the captain ordered a crash dive, the hull screeching under pressure as if dragged by unseen claws. Up above, U.S. sailors braced for counterattack, remembering what had happened earlier that same week when another Japanese sub, desperate and cornered, surfaced suddenly like a wounded beast, its hatch flying open, flames spilling out, crew members running across the deck only to vanish in the red mist of machine gun fire as the sea boiled around them from exploding depth charges. The horror spread through both sides. American crewmen swore the sea smelled metallic for hours, and the survivors' screams, carried by wind, echoed long after the sub broke apart and sank. But on this night, the medic's boat was fighting to survive, navigating a maze of underwater canyons where each turn could mean salvation or suffocation. He worked by touch as alarms shrieked overhead, using torn clothing to bind wounds while murmuring prayers drowned out by the rhythmic thump of distant depth charges. Each detonation, a hollow, stomach-punching boom that sent shockwaves rolling through their steel coffin. Meanwhile, sonar operators above tracked every movement, stunned at how clearly the silent sub now appeared on their scopes, as if outlined by some ghostly spotlight, an enemy once invisible now exposed, trembling in the deep. One operator later recounted how, during a brief lull, he heard something impossible, what sounded like muffled cries bleeding through the sonar static, like voices trapped in the water itself, though he never knew whether it was real or the ocean playing tricks on a mind stretched thin. As the Americans prepared their final run, the medic felt the floor beneath him rattle violently, tools sliding, lights sparking, the sub battered by pressure waves until a pipe overhead burst and scalding steam filled the compartment. He dragged two men through the choking fog, skin blistering, all while the captain made a final gamble, turning toward an underwater ridge to hide in the acoustic shadow, hoping the new sonar couldn't follow. But the Americans could still see them, clearer than ever, as if the sea had betrayed its own secrets, and when the destroyer dropped the last pattern of charges, the medic's world folded into darkness, steel twisting, water surging, screams cutting off as cold salt water swallowed the dying. When dawn came, the ocean was unnervingly calm, disturbed only by patches of oil and drifting splinters, silent evidence of a night where technology leapt forward, ending the myth of invisibility forever. And now the question that will haunt you as you watch this story unfold. If silence itself can be hunted, what hope does any soldier, or any soul trapped beneath the waves, truly have?